is something so amazing being in a room full of all these incredible women who just want to be better and just be better people. It's so amazing to see all of you, and I feel so honored to be with you guys today and to speak to you. I have been through quite a bit in my life, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and some of the things that I've learned from my journey. So I am the youngest of 6 kids, and I've always loved being the youngest. I have a lot of nieces and nephews now, and I'm 22 years old, and I've always been a very active person, involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. I grew up doing cheer, dance, and tumbling, and I continued doing those things through junior high and high school. I was on the junior high cheer team and on the high school cheer team, and I loved building those relationships with all of my teammates and feeling that belonging in high school. It was amazing. I was also on the high school golf team, which I loved, and I just have always loved being outside, moving my body, and staying active. The summer of 2020, I was in Bear Lake with some of my friends, and we had such a fun weekend together. We rode jet skis, we played in the sand, we got shakes, doing everything you do in Bear Lake. And we headed home through the Logan Canyon. And about halfway through the canyon, we were hit head-on by a drunk driver. They estimated that the driver was going about 70 miles per hour when he hit right into our car. I don't remember much about the crash, but I remember being in so much pain. It felt hard to breathe. The driver, Tavy, she broke her femur, and it was a really bad break. My friend Brooke in the front seat, she had some abdominal wounds and pain and some back wounds. The boy sitting next to me, Josh, he cracked his pelvis and broke his collarbone. And for some reason, my injuries ended up being the most severe. I was instantly paralyzed from the waist down, so my spinal cord was severed in 2 different places. And I was internally bleeding, which is why I was in so much pain. Now, it took the ambulance about an hour to get to our car because we were about halfway through the canyon where there was no cell service. So luckily, someone in the surrounding cars had a ham radio and was able to call for help. But we were trapped in that car for about an hour. I was taken to the Logan Regional Hospital, and they gave me several blood transfusions, but they realized the extent of my injuries, and I would need to be life-flighted to Primary Children's Hospital. It was there that my parents met me, but because of COVID, only one parent was allowed inside the hospital. Luckily, I was 17 years old and I could have a parent with me. They said if I would have been 18 years old, they wouldn't have let anyone be with me. So I was glad that my mom could come in and be with me. And I remember seeing her for the first time as I was being wheeled to surgery. She said, "Sarah, everything's gonna be okay. I love you. And the doctors are gonna take good care of you." And that's about all I remember for the next 2 weeks. For those 2 weeks, I was heavily sedated, constantly in and out of surgeries. The doctors determined that I was paralyzed from the waist down, and 30% of my intestines would need to be removed because they were bleeding and all destroyed. And they would need to amputate both of my legs above the knee because there was no blood flow getting to my legs because my stomach aorta was being pinched off, my abdominal aorta. And so I was not getting blood flow to my legs, and they both needed to be amputated above the knee. And I spent 3 months in the hospital. And this was during COVID, and I'm a social butterfly. I love talking. I'm definitely an extrovert. And so this was really hard. No family or friends could be with me. My parents switched off being with me every other day. So my mom would spend 24 hours with me, and then my dad would spend 24 hours with me. And those 3 months were pretty difficult, but I learned a lot in those 3 months. I'll never forget the first day I went to the Rehabilitation Center. They transferred me to the University of Utah Hospital, and my first day of rehab, up until this point, had only been getting about 30 minutes of physical therapy each day. And they had told me beforehand that now I would be getting about 3 hours of physical therapy each day. And my muscles were weak, and I wasn't very strong in the hospital physically. But the first day of rehab, the physical therapist came in, and she said, "Okay, Sarah, I want you to get dressed. Mom, did you bring clothes for her?" And my mom's like, "Yeah, luckily I have a bag with clothes for Sarah." So my mom hands me my clothes, and I'm like, "I'm good. I like this hospital gown. I like wearing nightgowns. Thanks, though." I was like, I don't want to try to get dressed because that seems really hard. But my mom handed me my clothes. The physical therapists were standing on one side. My mom was standing on one side, and they're all just watching me. And I didn't even know where to start. I couldn't keep my balance because when you're paralyzed from the waist down, your balance is all thrown off. And I didn't really know how to put on pants, and I couldn't lift up my arms to put on my shirt because my arms were so weak. And they were just watching me struggle putting my clothes on. My mom was in tears. And the physical therapist, after watching me for about 5-6 minutes, just tried doing my best. They said, "Okay, we'll help you now. We just wanted to see where you were at to see what your growth is by the end of, your time in the hospital." And I was like, that wasn't really fun for me, but so then the physical therapist helped me, and you can see on my face, I'm just not having it. And this is her helping me get dressed. And in that moment, I realized I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help. Now, I was going to sit up here and talk to you guys about how independent I've become and how I can do everything on my own and how I've just become this strong, independent woman. But I need people. Flash forward a year, I moved to Logan for college at Utah State University, and this was a big step. I did gain independence. I could do my laundry on my own. I could cook for myself, all those things that you need to learn how to do before you go to college. So I went up to college, and Utah State snow is no joke. Logan, Utah, it snows so much. It snows from October to April, and snow in Logan, plus a wheelchair, does not add up very well. So I remember my first snow in Logan. It was really hard to push myself in the snow. My rims would get all slippery, and my hands would be so cold because the snow my tires would make the snow come up. And something funny, not very funny, is that the snow plows would come and push all the snow up against the part where I come out of the curb, like to cross the street. They would push it all up. And so I remember I was just going to class. I lived on campus, so I could go to class easily. And so I made it to the street, and there's this big pile of snow because the plows had plowed it all. And I'm like, I can't just step over this. I can't just walk over this pile of snow. I needed help. And I needed to learn how to ask for help. I wanted to be this independent woman who I could call my parents and say, "Guess what I did today all by myself?" I wanted to be independent, and I was independent in a lot of ways, but I needed help. And so I remember just sitting there, and I was like, I just need to wait for someone to walk by to help push me across the street. And so I remember sitting there looking at this pile of snow. Finally, some guy walked by, and I was like, "Hey, can you push me across?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." I gave him a service opportunity, and he pushed me across the street, and I was so grateful. And I realized I couldn't do it on my own. Now, this is a video of my friend and I. Let's see, do I?
Look at how tall this is. We're gonna make it.
Kennedy's the best.
Yes,
Caretaker.
caretaker.
So this is my friend Kennedy pushing me through the snow, and this describes our college experience. I needed help. Yes, I was independent in a lot of ways, but I couldn't do it on my own. And sometimes we want to be that independent person who doesn't need to call any neighbors to help watch their kids and just wants to do everything on their own and wants to be that independent woman. And you are strong and independent, but we need people. I found strength in my struggle through connection and being willing to ask for help. The connections that we build are so important. Building relationships with the people around us is so important. And Jenedy said at the beginning, we are stronger together. We should build our relationships with the people around us. And if you don't feel like you have anyone, if you are feeling really lonely, God is always there. You can build your relationship with God. But no matter who you build your relationship with, we need connection. And we need to be willing to ask for help. It's okay to call up a neighbor and say, can you watch my kids for an hour so that I can take a nap? Or calling up DoorDash and DoorDashing some food instead of cooking. We need to ask for help. And we need to build our relationships with the people around us. Now, throughout my whole journey, it could have been easy to give up on my cheerleading career, give up on golfing, give up on swimming, not even try. But I decided to accept my situation, accept the trauma, accept the loss, accept my grief, and then make the most of it. Now you'll notice something cool about these 3 pictures is that these are the same 3 pictures you saw earlier. A picture of me golfing, a picture of me cheerleading, and a picture of me swimming. My body does look a little bit different, but I've been able to accomplish so many more things than I ever thought would be possible because I accepted what I lost and then chose to make the most of it. I have been able to, like I said, accomplish so many more things than I ever thought would be possible. I got married this summer. And I landed my dream job as an elementary school teacher. That's something that I always wanted to be throughout my whole life. So I finished my 4 years in Logan at Utah State. I made it through the snow, and now I'm happy. I live in Davis County. I live with my husband now, and yeah, I landed my dream job as an elementary school teacher. I teach 2nd grade, and this is my first year. I had my first substitute today so that I could come here and speak with all of you. But I really have been able to accomplish so many things and find joy in the journey, joy despite my circumstances. I found joy in the journey by accepting my situation and choosing to make the most of it. Now, we all have things in our lives that we feel like are keeping us from accomplishing the things we want to do. I know we all have burdens on our shoulders. We all feel like things are too heavy to carry. We don't have to do it alone. But I promise if you accept what you've been given, accept your circumstances, accept your grief, accept your losses, accept your trauma, then it's your choice what you do with your situations. You can choose to make the most of the circumstances that you're in. Thank you so much for having me.